Welcome to our live Zoom program. This program is being recorded and will be available on the PPBC website. We recommend you use the speaker view setting. Please put your questions and comments in the chat. You can save the chat at the end of the program by clicking on the three dots at the bottom of the chat window. If you're not on the PPBC forum list but wish to be added, please put your name and contact information in the chat to the attention of Stan Pokras. Thank you. And Nicole, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Financing Philadelphia's Future, presented by the Philadelphia Public Banking Coalition. I'm Nicole Levy, and today we are speaking with mayoral candidate Helen Gim. Today's session is part of a series that's going to be focused on the mayoral primary race. We're speaking with candidates about their support for public banking, as well as their visions for Philadelphia's financial future. Peter and I are going to be leading today's Q&A with Helen. We have a standard set of kind of three general topics to cover with all of the candidates. Before we jump in, I do just want to center us on this moment in time. As many of you know, the coalition has been working for over a decade to make Philadelphia the first city in the country with a public bank. North Dakota State has one. We want one here in Philadelphia. The public banking movement has a lot of support among voters in Philadelphia. Last year, we fought for and won a legislative victory when City Council voted by an overwhelming majority, 15-1, to create the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority. It's an economic development authority that would put local residents and community leaders in the driver's seat of creating and directing investment opportunities into our local neighborhood economies. Of course, the authority was also conceived to formalize and continue the work of creating a public bank for Philadelphia. But the sitting mayor, as many of us know, has single-handedly stopped this democratic process. He refuses to appoint the governing board for the PPFA as recommended by City Council, which brings us to this election and today's discussion about the mayoral race and Philadelphia's financial future. Helen Gim is a former Philadelphia school teacher, a longtime community organizer, and she served as council member at large from 2016 until she resigned last fall to run for mayor. Helen Gim, thank you for taking the time to be with us here today. Welcome.
Thank you, Nicole and Peter, and thanks to everybody who's watching.
Helen, Philadelphia is America's poorest large city. We know that many neighborhoods and sections of our economy suffer from large-scale disinvestment due to factors such as redlining and impediments to the creation of intergenerational wealth. We need better access to home loans and small business loans in Black and Brown communities, patient capital and pre-development financing for cooperatives and minority-owned businesses, lands preserved in trust for true home affordability. As mayor, what are your plans to reverse this trend and drive investment into these underserved sectors of our economy?
So a lot of times when I talk about Philadelphia's poverty situation, not just only nearly 1 out of 4 residents who live in poverty, but also 37% of our children who are often born into it. My belief is that poverty at this scale is not by accident, it is by design. Whether it is intentional or not, this has largely been manufactured, perpetuated, and done by processes, policies, some of which you articulated, that are relentless. And so in order for us to reverse these things, I believe that city and municipal government need to be equally purposeful and relentless about the reversal of the denial of access to both investment and capital. I want to start off with just a general conversation about what it means to be in an invested city, to talk about how chronic disinvestment has driven down the quality of life, the actual life expectancy, and the opportunities that are given to many communities, and especially in Black and Brown neighborhoods of Philadelphia. It feels like when a young girl walks through neighborhoods and streets that she is much more likely to walk through neighborhoods and communities impacted by vacant lots, illegal dumping. She is much more likely to go to a school that is in disrepair, that struggles with air conditioning or mostly a lack thereof, that she's unlikely to have a playground, broken asphalt in lieu of play structures. It means that her library is likely closed on the weekends and her rec centers could be closed on weeknights. And, city services, her lights, street lights are darker. Homes struggle for safe habitation. These are the products of chronic disinvestments and the lack of access to capital structures that allow us to reinvest in neighborhoods and communities. And what I appreciate about this coalition is that what you are saying very clearly is that this level of investment is not only heartbreaking, it is unacceptable. And we can show that in combination, how communities with a vision for reinvestments and for things which actually impact the benefits and quality of life in their communities can be on one side of an equation, and on the other side, city governments and others have an extreme responsibility to pull together a wide variety of financial institutions and drive a public interest vision towards investment that can embrace our communities, our young people, and show them that that we can actually bring to bear the investments that people have long identified and called for, that this is not a pipe dream, but this is actually the purpose of government. The most important thing that I led with is about intentionality, that this is purposeful, that it is led by communities, that it is a clear answer and response to urgent needs, whether it is around gun violence, about quality of life, about structures of institutions, whether they be a school, a library, a recreation center, or an economic corridor that really needs to come back to life. That leadership needs to come from the mayor's office, the vision and coordination among many different local, regional, and national participants to create a true reinvestment plan for Philadelphia that centers the economic well-being and growth, most importantly, the growth of communities, neighbors, and of young people in particular. I want to say that, many people may know that a lot of my push into elected office happened more than, just about a decade ago when, a governor and a mayor actually slashed budgets and took $1 billion out of education. And, we can see those consequences each and every day. Germantown High School remains empty to this day in unproductive use and continues to contribute to problems in neighborhoods that really need to come back to life. So I want to show not only what it looks like for disinvestment, but on the other hand, how exciting investment can be. That when we actually, really leaned in and brought clean water into schools, it excited an almost $500 million investment from the school district of Philadelphia to ensure that we delivered clean water, some amount of air conditioning, and lead, asbestos, and mold removal in many of our public school buildings. There's a big initiative for green spaces in a world where we need more tree canopies and other things, to remind ourselves that 216 buildings with asphalt mistaken for playgrounds is actually not the way that we build a future. We can have vibrant playgrounds, that people are really invested in transit that works for people, that we have renewed investments in a new climate infrastructure, whether it is literally stopping Black neighborhoods like Eastwick from flooding, shoring up the opportunities that have existed around the Logan Triangle, which has been undeveloped for decades now, all the way to what we can see, in South Philadelphia, where we probably have the largest environmental cleanup effort going on in the country. There is a hunger for investments in communities all across the city of Philadelphia, and more these investments are matching with actual human needs, with community mobilization, and it should therefore be matched with a real vision for investment. Again, I will say that I'm glad that we have a vibrant, investment space here. Not only are there great financial institutions that are doing really powerful work, from CDFIs and credit unions. We have, we have entities like a PIDC. We have banks that are obligated under city law to deal with reparations and other, supports. We also have minority-owned banks, collectives, and ultimately, what I think this coalition is working towards is a real public banking effort here in the city of Philadelphia. But what we need first and foremost is an intentional effort through the mayor's office to bring these entities together, to match them with the driving needs that are happening in communities, whether it's in affordable housing, school modernization, economic corridors and business developments. All these things have an opportunity to come together right now, to make sure that we are jumpstarting and growing our city at the local level.
Great. Thank you for that, Helen. I hear you really talking about this idea of your administration coming in both with a vision to lift up neighborhoods and communities and their expertise, frankly, about what their community needs, and connect them to a lot of these capital sources. I'm very glad to hear you already mentioned public banking as sort of a partner in that table, in that work. I wonder if you could speak a little bit more about how you see public banking and the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority, which passed into law last year, sort of sitting at this table and fitting into your vision for reinvesting in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I think has been really challenging here in the city of Philadelphia is that a lot of our most essential institutions are largely separated from a unified and clear public sector interest that is, driven by cities. So, for example, one of the biggest challenges is that we have a mayorally controlled school board, but for like 17 years, we were taken over by the state of Pennsylvania. And I've been very clear that until the city and the school district actually unite in a mission, we're not really going to be able to transform, Philadelphia from the ground up. The school board cannot raise its own revenues. And so that is a big problem when it comes to long-term types of planning, investment-based structures where things need to be looked at, maybe 10, 20 plus years ahead of time, with new financing models being built in and all throughout that way. And what public banking and the public banking mindset does is that it thinks about structural investments in communities driven by needs, and then harnesses the power of city resources, private entities, pulling together in a large effort towards driving investment to neighborhoods and communities, rather than through individual by individual kind of applications or, these sort of things. What we can do, what I appreciate about the mindset around the public banking effort, is that it's meant to help drive like large scale investments. I've been very clear that I want one of those to be school modernization. I want it to be around affordable housing that dramatically meets needs. I want it to be around climate infrastructure. It can be about even something like ensuring internet access in a modern world, so our people in this city of Philadelphia don't get left further and further behind while other cities modernize and help get people becoming more technologically proficient. None of these things are going to happen by accident in a city where I think, a fraction of individuals who can access even like low like priority programs run by a Comcast, like they're just not reaching the number of people. We need to lean in with the role of the city to be able to reach out and drive a lot of the public projects that can spur economic development expand our tax base. You know, when people are more proficient at what they do, when our schools are coming back to life, people are going to want to be here. By investing in good transit, people are going to want to come to Philadelphia. By creating a market for affordable housing, we become a more desirable city, especially when we're sandwiched between New York City and Washington, D.C. But I have been very clear. Left to their own devices, the market will not serve many communities that have already been left behind. So we cannot pursue those same financial models or assume that the levers will change out of goodwill. We actually have to lead that drive and change. And the good thing about the public interest mindset around this is that it's driving the capacity, resources, and government banking and government backing rather to support real publicly, a real mission for public development projects, that meet needs. Again, community land trusts are just opportunities unless we provide the capital to make them become what they need to be: affordable housing, increased funding for co-ops and minority-owned businesses, subsidizing growth at the local and starting ground level is one of the most important things. So as mayor, what I'm deeply committed to is the principles of public engagement and transparency, making sure that we have a unified effort to drive allocations of economic development dollars, to make them clear and apparent within communities, and then to make sure that communities feel that they are part of and beneficiaries of this process, and also evaluators of it as well.
Helen, thank you so much for your support for the public banking project and the values that we want to instill in the public bank. The precursor for the public bank is the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority, and you voted for it when you were in city council. When you were mayor, will you implement the ordinance by appointing the board and having the city solicitor file for incorporation and provide the funding that's necessary for the startup of the organization, and also funds for the financial authority to manage?
Yes. So I think I'm absolutely committed to seeing the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority come into play. I think it is really important for us to have a larger group of people around the table, talking about the economic drivers for the city, holding more and more institutions within a public forum to respond and engage about the investments that are managed. I do believe it's going to take time, so I want us to be patient, but I absolutely intend in that first time period to invest in the establishment of the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority, its members, to outline its authorities and duties, and to begin working on investments that we can drive right away. I do not want to, I believe that this city and nobody in the city wants to wait. I am a big believer that structures matter, but I also want to see activity start to move. And so I want a group of people to come together to start laying out structures, but also start driving investments on day one. That's something that I think that we can do together and build out the right process for the Public Financial Authority to reach its fullest potential and prove that it's actually delivering competent investments that are happening on the ground in a time period that people feel like, is not years and years. That's the thing that I worry the most. And especially in a world of politics where, the cynicism, the promises, our mission is to prove to people that we never had to live like this, that we have to take action and show that tomorrow is better than today. And today is better than yesterday. So, we have a lot of work to do to move rapidly. But I think I've made my position clear. It's why I was a co-sponsor for it. And I'm hoping that we together can bring that to its fullest potential.
Great. Thank you, Helen. I know we're coming up on time here in just a few minutes. I'm looking in the chat and I see some comments or questions. One, perhaps if there was less economic inequality in Philadelphia, there would be less crime. And I know on the campaign trail, we've heard you talking a lot about the importance of safe schools, clean streets, and just safety across Philadelphia. Would you say, is it fair to say that those kinds of things are sort of, we could think of them as success measures or outcomes of a successful reinvestment agenda for Philadelphia?
Absolutely. Especially as we're talking about safety and crime, I think that there's no question that among the things, in the mission for, the public mindset, there's everything that we should be doing to driving down homicides, violent crime, quality of life issues. But things that we have to be doing right now and that are deliverable in this moment are the absolute deployment of city services, especially in areas that have been hardest hit by violence. That is absolutely a #1 agenda, to go after illegal dumping, to make sure that sanitation is increased and improved, to brighten up city streets with lighting, to make sure that we are cleaning and greening vacant lots and taking them out of the kind of visual blight that they bring to neighborhoods and communities, that we are talking about safe pathways, passages to and from schools. So no parent of any child has to be afraid for their child's safety on just traveling to get what should be the most important thing to them, which is their education right now. Those are things that I believe that we can be delivering immediately. And I do believe that those things not only address long-term causes of violence, but have been shown to immediately improve the quality of life standards for people who are experiencing it. I've also been very clear that immediate responses to violence, and the way my administration would be fundamentally different, would be that the day after something like that horrible shooting, the mass shooting that happened outside of Blaine Elementary School last week, that the very next day that you are seeing healthcare workers and social workers and individuals from different agencies, including our police department, knocking doors on that block, offering food, taking surveys, documenting what's needed and happening within communities, seeing if there are resources that can be done to actually repair. There were almost 30 bullets that flew around in that neighborhood. If there are damaged doors or windows, if cars got damaged, like, are there things that we can do to support communities and neighborhoods right now? Because to me, that level of responsiveness lets people know that we value life, that we actually value and care about people, and that this is what the city's mission is: to deploy services, resources, assistance, and care and keeping for one another as neighbors, not as victims and observers, but as neighbors, to restore our communities back to balance. That's the kind of thing that I think, an investment mindset brings back into communities that's so long been disinvested in. And I hope that that's something that we will have a chance to prove as mayor.
Great. Thank you so much. We are so appreciative of your time with us today. We don't have any more questions for you, Helen. Thank you again.
Thanks, everybody.
Nicole, you're on mute.
Unmute. Great. I just want to say to all of our viewers out there too, please be on the lookout. This was the first in a series of interviews with the mayoral candidates. So we're looking forward to additional interviews in the future through Financing Philadelphia's Future. Thank you so much for being with us today.